Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do pretty much every Sunday of the month, except for the first Sunday of every month is Subscriber Sunday, where subscribers send in photos of things in their yard that they're proud of. You can send in photos to this email address right here. Just make sure you mark the emails as subscriber photos or something like that, so I know what they are. I've got a lot of photos for this next week. This next week will be Subscriber Sunday. It's the first Sunday in October. All the photos that were sent to me during September will be in that video. And like I said, there's a lot of participation. So thanks everyone for participating in that. Let's see, I announced on last Sunday's video a giveaway for the Sunjo tiller, electric tiller right here. It's right here. Well, you're not getting this one, you're getting a new one. But I used the random comment picker. There were comments, I think there were close to 400 comments on Instagram and even more than that on YouTube. And the winner of that, using that random comment picker that you guys have seen me use before, is Judy Middleswart. And I think she said it's in Florida. I think is what her comment down at the bottom, I think said she was in Florida. But that was a YouTube winner. I did the random comment picker on the Instagram post and then on the YouTube post, and then I flipped a coin for whether YouTube or Instagram won. That was the best way I could come up with that. I had never done a combined one like that. I'd always had an independent winner on Instagram and an independent winner on YouTube. So that was a first for me, but I did, that's the way I went about doing that. I picked a winner from each and then flipped a coin. This week I've got 4 pairs of Corona snips. Corona sent me a box of these snips. I'm gonna have a bigger Corona giveaway when I reach 100,000 subscribers, but these snips work great. You see me use them for in the propagation videos, and these are the shears I use for deadheading, for thinning seedlings if I put extra seedlings in a tray when I'm doing vegetables and annuals and that kind of thing. They work great, and there's just no hand fatigue with them. But they sent me a whole box of them. I'm not going to ever go through a whole box of them, so I figured I would give some of them away. I'm giving 4 of them away. I'll talk about that at the end of the question and answer. Okay, so let's get started on the question and answer. Today there were a lot of questions. There were so many comments on that video. It was kind of hard to go through and even get the questions out of it. So that was kind of an interesting chore for this week's question and answer. And thank you for all the kind comments you guys always leave on these giveaways. I think the channel reached 97,000 subscribers this past just a couple days ago, and so it won't be long before it's at 100,000. I don't believe sometime in October is my guess. Let's see. Somebody asked how old the dogs are, and Holly is 12. I don't know if she's been in the video yet, but I'm sure she'll walk behind me at some point. And Griffin is 2, and he acts like it, and she acts like she's 12 too. So she's kind of cranky at times. Okay, somebody wanted to know what this butterfly bush that's in the background, I think it's in the video, is that Grand Cascade butterfly bush that's back there. It's got gigantic flowers on it. I did some videos on the shrubs and perennials and annuals that I had done in the yard just a couple weeks ago, and it was in it, if you want to go back and look at that. Okay, somebody asked about, this happens a lot. You'll go to buy a plant at a garden center or nursery, and you pull it out of the container and it's half rooted. And then, of course, once you pull it out of the container and disturb it, when you plant it, there's a lot of plant on top and not a lot of roots below it, so it's wilting every afternoon. In that case, and this has happened to me a million times, I mean, I'm not, it's of course an exaggeration, but lots. I mean, back in my landscape days, I'm trying to finish a landscape job, and I've looked high and low for 20 plants to finish this job. I'm this close to finishing a job that's taken 3 weeks. And I end up having to buy something that's not fully rooted into the container. Those plants, when they come out of the container like that, really you have to reduce the size of the top of them just a little bit to compensate for the fact that it just don't have a lot of roots on them, and that you're doing additional damage to the new roots that were in the process of coming out into that container when the soil falls off. So if that happens to you, don't stress about it. Go in and just take, 2 or 3 inches off the end of each branch. I think this was an oak leaf hydrangea that they had, so it probably only had about 3 or 4 branches on it. You just take the top growth off of it. That, generally speaking, will stop the wilting and take some of the stress away from that plant. But you'll frequently see it, and I have a feeling you're going to see it a lot this fall and probably a lot next spring. The retail business for for nursery plants has been so big that I have a feeling that we'll see a lot of stuff going there that's not quite finished just because everybody will buy it regardless. And so keep that in mind. Just reduce the size of the top of the plant a little bit. Generally speaking, that will take care of it. Okay. Somebody asked, they bought some potting soil and they thought it was kind of cheap potting soil, but when they water it, it's kind of a red, the water's kind of tinted red when it comes out of the bottom. That'll initially happen with any potting soil, no matter what the cost of the potting soil is. When you initially plant something, it's just like those carbon filters. If you ever use one of those carbon filters for filtering water in any way, initially you get that carbon, that black that comes out of that carbon filter initially. It's the same exact thing in that potting soil. Some of the stuff, some of the dust that's on the potting soil is so fine that it comes out initially with the water, but you'll notice that after once it settles in to the container, it won't, you won't have that much of that color. You'll continue to have some, but not as much as you initially will. Okay, somebody asked me, they had bought several cheap pH meters from Amazon and thought that they may be inaccurate. Maybe they're getting different measurements each time. I've got, if you go down to the bottom of any of my videos, I have my Amazon store link down there, and the actual pH tester that I use is it costs quite a bit more, but it's a Fellway that's I consider accurate. It's the one I've been using since I was a teenager, and at a garden center I worked at as a teenager. It's just a better piece of equipment. These multi-tool ones with the moisture meter and the pH meter and all that, I don't know how accurate they were. When I did mine here, though, I found that most of the tests, I think I did 4 different ones. I did a mail-off one, I did the pH, my high-end pH tester, and 2 low-end Amazon ones, and they were all within, pretty close to one another. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to come up with is, what side of 7 am I on? 7 being neutral. I want to make sure that I'm, somewhere around 6 is great if I can be there. I don't want to be a lot lower than that because a lot of the stuff, doesn't want, other than blueberries and azaleas, don't want pH at 4.5, which some of my area can be, and I definitely don't want to be above 7 if I can help it. Those of you in parts of the country have, that's just gardening where you are. But for me, I'd like if that pH meter's telling me anywhere between 5.5 and 6.5, and even if they're a little, if I'm getting 3 different readings, as long as they're all falling within that, I'm happy, and I'm probably moving on with my day. But like I say, I do have a better one linked at the bottom. They said as a bonus it'd have a moisture meter on it as well, and this one would not. But I do have one down there that is linked. There's 1 or 2 on Amazon that have a moisture meter pH combo that are ranked pretty highly, and I think I have those linked as well. Okay, there were a lot of comments about the electric tiller, all over the place about it won't do this or it will do that, or how is it with rocks, or how is it with clay, and yada yada. Obviously it's a little electric tiller. It's not, the main thing with a tiller is weight. So a tractor that a farmer's driving, has weight, and they put extra weight on their tiller boxes, to sink the thing down into the ground. This thing has a limited amount of weight, and so what I have found with this thing is it's tenacious, but I have to go over it several times. I have clay soils here, so when I did the zoysia sod here and in the front, I had to till this 4 times. But then it was fantastic. I mean, it worked great. It just, you're going to have to go through it more, which, it's $110 or $120 versus, $300 or $400 or $500. So, there's that. And I'm only going to use it, I've used it 3 times since I've been in this house. And so, for me, I don't mind having to work a little harder at it, or work a little longer. I'm not actually working harder. The thing weighs nothing. It's actually easier. It just takes longer. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked me, I talked about putting tulips in containers in the video last week, and that would cold treat them in the south. And they're in zone 9 and wanted to know when I'd be putting up tulip videos because they wanted to plant some. In zone 9, you definitely need to refrigerate your tulips, and you probably need to refrigerate them for 9 or 10 weeks. So once you've gotten them, you want to go ahead and put them in your in the drawer in your bottom drawer in your refrigerator. So that's kind of important. Make sure they're not in a plastic bag. I've said this in every bulb video I've ever done. The bulbs that you're buying are coming in either some sort of mesh material, or they're coming in sometimes paper. But that's because the bulbs have moisture in them, and if you put them in a plastic bag and close them up tight, they can end up rotting very quickly. They can also end up rotting stacked up a lot too. So you know, keep that in mind. But those mesh bags are on purpose. They're not just so you can see the bulbs. They're also so the bulbs can kind of breathe and not rot. And so my bulbs should, I would think any day now I'll have my bulbs here. But bringing that up, there's a playlist on my channel called Bulbs, and it's every bulb video I've ever done. And so I've covered this pretty thoroughly 2 years in a row, how I treat my tulip bulbs in the South, and planting all kinds of other bulbs. And if you're new to the channel's grown a lot this year, and I probably haven't covered this in a little while. If you go to my main channel page on YouTube, so if you just search HortTube on YouTube and pull that up, my main channel page will come up. There's a little bar up at the top, and one of them says playlist. If you'll go to that playlist button, if you're in zone 5, I have every zone 5 plant that I've ever done on this channel. Hopefully, I'm sure I've missed a few. But I have almost every zone 5 plant I've ever done in a playlist called Zone 5 Plants. Same thing with zone 9. If you're interested in bulb videos, pruning videos, tour videos, if you just want to watch every garden tour I've ever done, they're all in. You want to watch all these Q&As that I do every Sunday, they're all in a playlist on the channel. And I think there's close to 70 Q&As at this point. So the channel is fairly organized. I'd like to have it more organized. I've talked about this in the past. It's 800 and some videos, and I'd like to have them even more organized in an additional playlist. I'll get to that at some point, but currently, it's not too bad. If you want shade plants, flowering plants, foundation plants, container plants, playlists for all those kinds of things. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked me, their Bloodgood maple never has any red leaves or purple leaves on it, which I'm assuming that just means it's always green. It may have been mistagged. It may be I guess if you had it in way too much shade, there's some possibility you'd see very little of the foliage color, but I think in the spring you would still see some. So my guess, I mean, if I'm just throwing out a guess, I'm thinking this is maybe a mistagged Japanese maple, and it was just a green variety. It wasn't actually Bloodgood. Totally guessing, obviously. Somebody asked if they tree formed a serviceberry that they already had. So serviceberry is a native tree to the eastern U.S. It's actually, I'm considering a single trunk serviceberry for the front yard. They wanted to know if they tree formed it, would it stay that way? If you have one that's already suckered and it's multi-trunked, and you limit up into a tree form, as you maintain the ball on the top, any pruning that you do on the top of it is probably going to initiate suckers from the base. So you'll be cleaning it. You'll be cleaning it up a couple times a year to keep it looking like a tree form. It's not that big of a deal, but just keep in mind anything you're pruning on the top or trying to maintain from the top is going to create growth down at the bottom. I'm going to buy a single trunk serviceberry that just was grown that way, and it will be a little easier to keep as a tree form. But if you're doing one from one you already have at the house that's multi-trunk, it's no big deal. A couple times a year, a little pruning down at the base for the suckers and a little pruning up at the top just to keep the general shape. Easy peasy. Somebody wanted to know when this Sunshine Ligustrum was planted. It was just planted in the spring. I put down 1 inch of compost in this entire space, and it's been incorporated in to this clay as I've planted. And then of course it was mulched with wood chips, and now it's mulched with the hardwood. Everything out here was fertilized in March. I don't know that this was here. It had already been planted when I fertilized, so it may have actually not been fertilized, but of course it was fertilized by all that organic material. So, but yeah, it's put on quite a bit of growth. I actually need to kind of shape it. I probably won't do that at this point. I don't know if you guys can see all the white flowers. I turned the camera this way just to see if you can see it. Hopefully on this HD TV, HD, you can see all the white flowers on this Osmanthus fragrans. I'm standing next to it. This is the sweetest fragrance on earth. This is Osmanthus fragrans. I have several videos on the channel for Osmanthus fragrans. Somebody asked about fertilizing their lawn in the fall, and of course, a lot of that fertilizer ends up in their plant beds. It's not ideal. I don't really want to be pushing, potentially pushing the plants, because that's a lot of nitrogen in turf fertilizer. That's the main food that the turf wants, and nitrogen is also the thing that makes, these shrubs grow. I always say, most of what I'm saying is just best practices. Honestly, you're not going to hurt these shrubs by fertilizing them in the fall. They may get a little new growth on them. You may end up with a little more damage from it. You may lose a flower here or there by pushing something at the wrong time of year. You're probably not going to kill the plant. And so, when I say the best time to fertilize is in the late winter, and then a second application if you have containers or, gardening, vegetable garden, easy for me to say, doing additional fertilizing on that stuff. But the shrubs I only do once a year. If you do it other times a year, you're not going to it's not going to cause massive amounts of harm. It's just potential harm. With that said though, it is best to use a drop spreader. If you have unusual shaped beds and you're fertilizing your turf, if you can get a drop spreader instead of a spreader that throws it out everywhere, a broadcast spreader, another word that was slow to come to me. Sorry about that. It's better to have a drop spreader that drops the fertilizer straight out of the bottom. It takes a little while longer to put it out, but it is more accurate. A drop spreader rather than a broadcast spreader would be better if you can make that change. So one more question this week before I announce the giveaway for this next week. Somebody asked me about over amending the soil and creating kind of a bathtub effect in the soil when you dig. So like when I dig in this clay, when I dig the clay out, I'm basically creating kind of a clay bowl. It's almost a clay pot. And there's some fear that if you were just to fill that completely back in with organic material, just by using too much organic material, you're basically creating a little tub where, water is going to find that low spot and run into it, and then it's going to be very quickly, the water is going to displace the air in it, and you're going to get root rot. And yeah, that's obviously a problem. I only use, I put down an inch of compost here, which gets, which gets incorporated when I plant, and that's, what percentage of the soil to the soil is that? When I'm digging a hole for a 3-gallon pot, it's probably no more than maybe 10 or 15% of what actually ends up in that hole. If I'm using pine bark, I'll use pine bark soil conditioner, which drains really well, and I'll use maybe 50% up to 50%. I probably don't even use that much when I plant most things. I just planted some blueberries out here on the driveway, and I used a lot of pine bark. They just love it. And but for the most part, I probably want to stay under 50% organic material and 50% of the native soil, and I probably lean more toward native soil. Keep in mind, I want you to use the right thing when you're planting in your area, and I may not know that. I'm in one little place here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I may not know what's totally best for your area. It may be best to go to a garden center that's well established with a staff that kind of knows the best thing to use in your area for your type of soil. And I want you to use that thing, the right thing, or nothing. Okay, it's fine to plant plants in the ground without amending them. It is. It shouldn't, and honestly shouldn't be a problem. But I like to use pine bark soil conditioner here or compost. And really the main reason I switched to compost on this channel was because I knew I keep talking about pine bark soil conditioner, and there's a good portion of the country that can't get it. And so I switched to compost because I feel like it's something that everybody can use. But I would prefer to use pine bark soil conditioner here in the southeast where it's available to us. It's the same thing the plants are grown in. Every nurseryman in America can't be wrong. It is a good material for establishing all of these shrubs and trees. And annuals are typically grown in more of a peat mix, but perennials you buy and shrubs you buy are going to be grown in some sort of bark mix. So like I say, the answer to that, yes, you can definitely overdo the organic material. Don't overdo the organic material. I would prefer to use compost or pine bark soil conditioner. Go to a garden center in your area and make sure that you're using the right thing. And I'd keep it under 50%. down to 0% and just use the native soil. If you're not able to find the right thing, don't use the wrong thing in place of that, because that would be damaging. Okay, another long answer from Jim. Okay, so I have 4 pairs of these Corona snips that I'm giving away. I'm going to give away 2 on Instagram and 2 on YouTube. And so if you will go over to my Instagram at HortTube and make a comment below today's post, I'll tell you what, we'll make it easy. I'll make it look something like this. Goofy photo. Okay, that'll be the today's photo on Instagram. Just make a comment below that. And same thing here on YouTube. Make any comment, and it can be a question. I'll be back with a question and answer video in 2 weeks. So I'll do the drawing for, I'll do 2 drawings on YouTube and 2 drawings on Instagram. Over on Instagram, if you want to tag a friend, you know, that might be interested in winning the Corona snips as well, that would be great. So thanks for participating in this channel. Congratulations to the winner of the tiller. And I'll do the giveaway for these pruners on next week's Subscriber Sunday video. Thanks for watching.